Well, welcome back after an 18 and some change minute game one that ends in a forfeit. And against all odds, maybe it's Locked and Goated that come out with the win in this one. Graham, talk to me a little bit about that duo. I mean, I hesitate to even call it a duo lane. We were wondering how maybe that long lane would work here in Season 7. Lots of roaming from both supports.
And here's the thing, right? At the start of a new season, what you generally start to see is that people will just take what we saw last season and run it back into the new season. This is a prime example of that for me, where both support players, they were way further behind in farm than expected them to be at the 10-minute mark. Sure, a level or two down on the other lanes makes sense. You want to give up some farm. But 4+ levels for both of them at certain points was insane to me. I had Geno at like level 6 when most of his team were 10, 11, 12. That's just too much of a distance to try and be a supporting factor in the game. Sure, give up XP, but not that much XP.
Well, and I argue that one support maybe did a slightly better job of roaming and finding some value for it in Andy. Geno, a bit of a rough game there on that Kumba. And I look at as well at Meerkat, obviously swapping into that new role. He had a tough time in that lane, ganked 3 times, unsuccessful twice, or successfully getting out twice, but finally the dam broke.
I think the one thing about this game is obviously it's a surrender at 18 minutes here, Dave. Yeah, yes. I think the big talking point of that really was they were down 10k gold, 13,000 experience.
Right.
And when you look at the composition Locked and Goated drafted, they had 3 assassins on this team that scale very well into the late game. Specifically Carly, but Thor now with the buffs that he had recently, he's a lot more effective. This just felt like Baskin and the boys realized they couldn't get back into it. And with it being a long day of SEC that these guys played in, it's a best of 5, so why not just start over again, go into game 2, and go, okay, let's try and correct some mistakes we had. And maybe not give Aquarius Yarmungandr, because he seemed to have a pretty fun time on that.
Right. At that point, you're probably saying, this one, 99% of the time is not going to go in our favor. Let's maybe save some tilt, go back to the drawing board, and run this one back. I mean, if you do look, is there any takeaway, if you're Baskin and the boys, from this game that you're happy on, or are you truly just wiping this one off the board and retrying here?
There's always going to be something to take away from every game, and it might even be like something that we just need to improve for the next time, right? Such as, is Geno far enough in farm? Is he getting as much farm as he needs to? Did anyone make any uncorrectable mistakes in the long run that we need to go back and fix? From what we saw that game, though, it really feels like this is a best of 5. That was a game 1 tester. Baskin's team did not look as good as we expected them to be on paper, although Aquarius still did everything that he needed to in that solo lane to try and support this team.
Well, I did feel back and forth largely for the first 10 or so minutes of that game.
Yeah.
Gold Fury goes to Locked and Goated, but then there's some kills back for Baskin and the boys, and things kind of shaking back and forth. Then you look at the 14-minute fight, and that's when Locked and Goated pull ahead, and then 16.5 minutes in the game is where I really think the dam breaks, and you mentioned it. The moment there's a Kali there, and they're kind of getting that far ahead.
You're going to have a bad time. I mean, like we said, 10 minutes in, that game was even.
Yep.
In 8 minutes, the gold lead went up by 10,000. The experience lead went up by 13,000 in 8 minutes. There's no point in continuing there. I understand it to an extent. They may have been able to battle back, but then when you've got Kukulkan ulting like that, you're going to have a bad time. Yeah,
that's a bit of a snowbally game there in game number 1, but it is a best of 5, so let's take a look at how the picks and bans will pan out here for game number 2. It's going to be Xing Qin banned out first for Locked and Goated. That's a big conversation piece as well. He's in a strong spot.
He is. I actually think he's very potent at the moment. I think he'll even be a little bit more potent once a couple more changes come through into the professional play as well. The camp's being a little bit more forgiving in that middle area means that he may be able to leap over those walls there too, which could see another revitalization of Xing Tian. I think Xing Tian on paper, though, is a fantastic pick at the moment. Great CC, good mobility, a lot of disruption.
Well, the 7th overall most banned god in the SEC does make it through here, and it's the first pick.
There we go!
For Locked and Goated. Why is Camazotz so prioritized?
I mean, he just lives forever, right? He doesn't bring much to a team comp in terms of CC control in these fights, but what he does do is he can pick a target and lock on it and stay with him the entire way. And when you think you're going to kill him, he can easily take to the sky, turn around, bat out of hell, back to safety. So much sustain on this god. You need anti-heal to deal with it.
Agreed. I think he's in a great spot. Kukulkan one more time here for Locked and Goated. And they do ban out Kali, Baskin, and the boys. Maybe a bit of a respect ban there.
Exactly.
Take it off the table. Cyno, so impactful in game number 1. Don't want to deal with it here in game number 2. Hachiman rounds out the first 3 for Locked and Goated, and Artio and Morrigan and Osiris for the first 3.
Yeah, nothing really changed from Locked and Goated too much. I mean, Kukulkan, Hachiman, run it back again.
Why not?
Why do it if it's not broke, if it doesn't need fixing, continue doing it. Baskin, though, and the boys, we're calling them Baskin, it's Baskin and the boys, but Osiris...
Well, it's just Baskin up there, right? So.
Yeah. Osiris does have a bit of anti-heal, which I do like against the Camazotz, which is one thing that people need to play around a little bit. Morrigan is definitely someone that can turn the tide of a battle, but she's going to take a little while to get online. Excited to see how she does, though, because it's been a minute since we've seen her.
And they are going to ban Meerkat as well as that Kumba. You're almost wondering now if you're Baskin. You saw that kind of double assassin kind of wreaked havoc on you in the last game. Again, that's got to kind of be a respect, maybe a retaliation from what happened in game one.
I mean, if you lose to a team, why give them the same picks again?
Yeah, right.
You know? Either take them away, ban them, make them show what else is in the god pool. I do like the Kumba ban there. Obviously, Baskin and the boys picked up Kumba last game, but they waited to draft a Guan Yu. And Guan Yu is susceptible to what Kukulkan can do. Cancel out the Tele Assault with the Yawn, root him in place a little bit, keep the pressure on.
And they're going to round out with Guan Yu, as you mentioned, and the Chernobog. Do you like what Baskin and the boys have drafted here? Maybe a comeback chance in game 2.
It's a solid comp, but it's a little bit tankier, and they're relying on a lot of the DPS on Chernobog and Morrigan. Can those two carry this team to the promised land of game 3? I'm not so sure. Tricky uphill battle, especially after what I just saw.
Well, it's Baskin and the boys looking to bounce back here in game 2. Let's send it down to Finch to see if they can do it.
Well, they're going to come at it with fundamentally an entirely different draft right here this time. I mean, they banned away everything they picked last time, and now they got all these tanks centered around keeping Meerkat going on this Morrigan and Baskin here on this Chernobog. Still Finch and Aggro here. Aggro, what are you thinking here with what Baskin and the boys have redrafted? They got some better tools now?
They do, but I'm also worried about the level of damage that they'll have. This is going to be very dependent on how well Meerkat can play on this Morrigan, and this is a god that's a comfort pin for him. He's played a lot of this god in the mid lane. We saw Zapman have great success with Morrigan in that long lane of the World Championship. We'll see if it still works here in Season 7. I think that he's going to need some help, though. He can't get ganked as often as he did last game.
A little too difficult for him. Geno this time on the support Artio is harassing the purple buff. Remember, this is one of the changes in Season 7. This purple buff does spawn a little bit earlier now at the same time alongside speed buff. So you can be here to try and fight over this one, and Geno certainly will, this time even stripping the buff away. And he's going to head over right over to right. It's the same mentality, right? Use your support to harass, but this time he's kind of following him around in different buffs than normal.
Yeah, Cyno starts in different places and ends up just taking him with him a lot of the time, it seems like. That red buff at least secured this time around. So it's not all bad that Cyno loses all this experience, but he still had to split a lot of those buffs. And Baskin and the boys know his speed buff is still up. I think that Mask may head over there, but decides instead to play it a little bit safer. There's still a little bit of farm left on the map for the moment. There's still backhand, left-hand side.
Nice stun, gets even more poke damage than Andinster. He has been getting chunked all game. Good AI Jutsu stun from Ẓtuart, but there's the root now, meaning this Sobek to take a bunch of extra damage. That's enough for first blood for Baskin and the boys. Andinster drops.
Immediately, Geno looks so much better on this Artio than he did last game on the Kukulkan. A low bar, to be fair, but I think that the level 1 potential from Artio has always been very strong. Sand Switcher is just inherently strong at lower levels because they just have double the amount of buttons that you do at levels 1 and 2, so it's pretty easy for them to make a bigger impact, and Artio doing just that so far.
Cyno is the one looking to get a bit aggressive. On that set pick this time, Mass is piloting the Guan Yu, which we have seen a bit more in the jungle lately. Cyno barely makes it out of there, but he's not getting away from the second wave of attacks. Baskin and the boys now right back in control here in game number 2 with 2 early kills.
This is exactly what they needed. I think Graham made a really good point that these players played forever on this day, in this qualifier day. So you know game 1's over with. Get me out. Let's reset. Let's reset mentally. I like that a lot.
Aqua and RelentlessOne are indeed going to be trading. We'll have someone fall here, and it's Aquarius. He returns the favor in the other direction as RelentlessOne gets the solo this time.
I'll bet you Aqua's 1 was up in 0.25 seconds. It was up in literally a moment. It's just that one last auto attack from RelentlessOne. Shout out to the auto chain, baby. That extra damage gets the job done and gets him the return kill. Always good to get that feeling of at least I got one back this time around.
Charge Prey into EI Jutsu means Geno is low on just about everything. HP and mana will likely have to take a back here this time. Expended much of his potions bullying Andinster throughout the early game alongside Cyno, so he'll take a trip back to base. All is well there. Talk to me a bit about jungle Set, though, because we don't normally see him there. Whenever we see Set, we'll see him in the ADC role a lot of the time, so you get pressure there, even some solo sometimes. What about our jungle Set?
I mean, Cyno's loved this pick for a while, all last year, but Andinster in some trouble again on this left-hand side. So has Charge Prey. So that blink in from Geno doesn't quite do enough. Don't know that that Baskin and the boys got that purple buff though. Looks like it may not have gone their way. I think that this jungle set is a pick that Cyno clearly loved last year, but went away from it pretty quickly after not seeing success. I think that it can be good, but requires a lot of things to go your way. It's just a little bit, the execution level just seems pretty high. His jungle clear requires you to use your 2 pretty early on, and you also need one of those 2 charges in order to get away from a lot of these fights. Your skewer's on a low cooldown, so you are able to clear fairly effectively, but not at the point that would really excite me about this pick.
That finds the stun and transforms into the Camazotz, but they've gotten sprint out from both of them alongside this Chernobog ult too, so very likely they won't be able to commit any further here. Baskin actually did come all the way over with that Chernobog ult too, so that's a lot expended from Baskin and the boys without fighting much except the sprint.
I think that there's 2 ways to play Morrigan ult, and it's having your quick select, I need this quickly sort of option, and then premeditating, I'm going to transform into whatever's best to chase in this moment. And I feel like if that was the game plan from minute 1, stun,
Guan Yu maybe?
Guan Yu or Set are both
Set,
great options. You get a ton of movement speed in both. You can close the gap with both. I don't know that you get kills either way because of that sprint pickup from Andinster, but at least Baskin and the boys are starting to put some pieces together, right?
Yeah.
That's a set play, so to speak, where you know what the game plan is going in. I don't think we saw a single one of those last time. It was a lot of pickup ball in game number 1 of this set.
Yeah, game number 1 felt like one team had the better players, but the other team was the better team, right? At least in that one particular game. I think certainly Locked and Goated can hang with these guys. They proved that in game number 1, but now we're seeing Baskin and the boys kind of lock back in a bit more and play at that level that we've expected. Still only about 200 gold out in front, though. I'd love to see where they are in terms of the experience as well, because so far, despite those kills, Locked and Goated seem to be right there with them.
They're hanging close. I mean, early game, it's not as swingy as it used to be a lot of the time. Last game, I think, was a really good example.
Andinster's really insisted on this purple buff invade into someone with a cripple, and this time he pays for it. Mast gets the credit for an Andinster just biting off more than he can chew.
Ẓtuart immediately like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that one. I mean, Andinster, a jungler forever, then a mid laner, then a long laner, but playing mostly assassins. Support is new to Andinster, and I think that level of understanding still clearly needs a little bit of work.
Cyno might have a gank here. Lord of the Afterlife is still available, though. There it is. Allows him to retreat. That had to have factored into the plan, though, so they're looking to die for this one. Easy gank over on the right-hand side. Well executed, but answered back by this rotation over from Baskin, helping out Meerkat to take down Ẓtuart. And now Mast finds one more. Cyno falls as well. That's a 2-for-1 in favor of Baskin and the boys.
Aqua buys enough time and pulls Cyno enough into that tower in order to make sure that kill doesn't go unanswered. A good rotation in from Mast.
Now the blink in to find that short-range stun. Cripple field means no escaping for you. Do they have the DPS to kill him during this shortened time? They don't. RelentlessOne goes back in, and that leap does so much. Keeps him up, and even finds the kill in the Mast.
That looks like Russian Poppy, a.k.a. RelentlessOne, is maxing Devour, which is not uncommon in that lane, but it's actually Screech that he's got the most points and only 2 points in that Devour. But don't forget, you get more physical power by returning that Screech buff to yourself.
Catching that echo.
An extra 30 power or whatever it was. Turns out not too bad.
Not too bad at all. Meerkat forces the ultimate due to pressure from Locked and Goated. Tries to see how much damage he can do to Andinster. Not a ton. Uses that 3rd charge just to get away, much like you'll see with Jormungandr's as well. So Meerkat makes it back out of there. But it looks like there is still going to be tons of aggression on this left-hand side of the map.
I mean, why not? It worked so well for Locked and Goated in game 1, and Mast still continues to look more likely to gank solo lane. I mean, that's been, and that doesn't surprise me too much. I mean, you think back to the way that Mast played during his SPL career, and even last year, he's got Baskin the solo lane on Armada, and you think, yeah, why wouldn't I just gank Baskin's lane all the time? And Aqua's a very, very strong player. You think that of the matchups, there's a lot of talent on Locked and Goated. Russian Poppy's played a lot at this level, but hasn't ever taken that next step. Aqua was once considered a really, really strong SPL solo laner.
Yeah.
That might be your biggest skill gap on paper. So let's go and gank that lane if we can. But at this point, do you really want to go over to the 2-0-1 level 10 Camazotz?
3 from Baskin and the boys here in left. Only 2 from Locked and Goated. Sprint plus Lurk in the Waters committed. That should be enough to get everyone unlocked and goaded out. So we can kind of stay in your wheelhouse here. What do you feel like? Hold on, Pegon's in some trouble. This could be a kill. Avoids that ultimate perfect from Baskin. This is exactly what my question was going to be. How do you feel about Hunters in mid? We just don't have time as there's more aggression. Aqua getting a little bit of backup coming his way from Baskin. That's a double kill using that ultimate perfectly to impact multiple parts of the map. There's nothing more there for RelentlessOne. But what about Meerkat? Ẓtuart catches him out with the Jutsu, hops up on the horse. They want a bit more and less.
This could be even more. Mask in some trouble, but good healing coming from Geno and himself. And now Geno may have been left to the wolves. He's only level 5.
He catches him with the charged prey. That's the dash now interrupted. Aqua finds one more, but Ẓtuart trades it back out by taking down Geno. I mean, what? This is just action all across the board now all of a sudden.
You know, Finch, getting ready for Season 7, we casted a lot of ranked games and things like
That's
that
true.
to try and get ready. We're like, don't worry, guys. So all the newbies that are on the SMITE casting team, it won't really be like this. I mean, it'll be much more calculated and slow-paced. Yeah, that's the joke, I suppose. A lot of kills all over the map at the time. Let's just go to the big picture, because breaking down all those fights seems exhausting to me.
Sure.
I think Hunters in the mid lane are probably just better, because here's my reasoning. Mages got nerfed in their build path.
Undoubtedly, right? Yeah.
No,
got
no
more
doubt.
options, but certainly not as strong as what it was. Right?
Not as strong as what it was. They get more farm, but farm is good on every character. That's what we learned last year with all the different types of characters we played in that long lane.
Yeah.
Hunter itemization did not get nerfed. If anything, it got buffed with Rage.
Yep.
So why stick to the class that got worse when we can just go to the class that got better, in my mind? I think that mid-hunters are going to be prevalent. I still think that late-game mages provide a lot and can be very valuable to your draft. I don't think that it's very wise to put them in that long lane anymore. I do think that I prefer to see hunters over
Meerkat forced to yet another transformation. Cyno getting aggressive on this set pick. Meerkat should be transferring back relatively soon. And Cyno still looking for more. Gets good damage on the mass, but andinster's looped all the way back around. It is now too far forward. Andy looking at times a bit lost, I feel like, in this support role. An unnecessary death, it feels.
Yeah, that's definitely an overextension from him in that team fight that really could have gone even better for Baskin and the boys. If Meerkat's more accurate after that Camazotz transformation, missed both the bats and the screech, that could have been a kill on the Cyno fairly easily, but just a little bit too inaccurate and made it so that Mask didn't have the damage to clean up.
It was tough. It was a quick decision to switch back in and look for aggression as Cyno has been locked down successfully by Geno. He's going to keep up the pressure all by himself and finds the kill. Baskin gets one more as well. RelentlessOne ends up dropping in the Gold Fury all the while, still being DPS. Big ultimate Aqua too late on Lord of the Afterlife to leap it, but this objective should now belong to B&B and the fight as well.
This is definitely a much better showing from Baskin and the boys, and it's going to some comfort picks. Geno is comfortable on the Kukulkan for sure. It's a pick he plays a lot, but this Stone of Binding Artio allows him to be as aggressive as he wants to be. Yeah. Baskin is just obliterating people with this Chernobog in the mid lane right now. 6-0.
Has not even finished this rage, dude.
It's only getting worse. I mean, he's going to be able to get himself in an awful lot of team fights pretty soon and be able to impact the map very, very easily. And with this damage, I think that Locked and Goated have to look at how they can shut down this mid lane Chernobog. And don't forget that because Baskin's getting big, that means that Meerkat gets stronger by association, because he can just turn into this Chernobog and do the same thing. And he can do the exact same level of impact with that itemization. I think that Locked and Goated have to find a way to shut down Baskin.
Well, it's 2 games in a row now that Cyno has showed all this attention in left. Does he need to spend a little bit more time trying to gank Baskin, trying to prioritize that farm, or is it even Cyno that you feel like maybe a refocus is needed?
I mean, Chernobog's just a hard god to gank with a god like Set. Set doesn't burst damage you at this point in the game. He just chases you down, and it's impossible for you to get away.
It's inevitability usually with Set, right?
Exactly, and Baskin can just eject from those team fights. He just doesn't have to be there.
Cyno has chosen aggression onto Meerkat again. Mask nearby, and in comes Baskin. Cyno tried to leave him, but Baskin came to him, shuts him down, unstoppable with 7 in a row for Baskin.
I mean, Meerkat didn't even need the help to live, but might not have been able to get the kill in that play, but this is why we went away from jungle Set a little bit. The ramp time is just takes a little bit too long. You look at what someone can do with a ton of farm. Assassins look really good because they take these 1v1s that are impossible to get away from. Cyno is even or behind most of the time out of the jungle, it's just not going to work nearly.
Has not been particularly impactful. We've moved over to the right side of the map for this little mini skirmish. 3 on 2, big ultimate flattens Geno, nearly catches Aqua as well, but well timed to Lord of the Afterlife there.
Just another play where Geno is too far forward, taking a trade that he doesn't need to take. Mass not present, so why are we fighting on this side of the map? You just don't want to take those 3-on-2s. Even you're past the point where Artio can out-trade her weight because just levels dictate that now. You're 3-4 levels down against the enemy mid laner. Even though your itemization is efficient and quick and really strong with your kit with Stone of Binding, it doesn't make up for 4 levels.
And with these stance tingers, that can be a hard window to kind of recognize sometimes, right? Because you are pretty impactful in those early levels, and kind of remembering when to reel it back can be tough. Let's keep our eye on if Geno kind of recognizes that perhaps he's not as potent as he was even just 4 minutes ago or something like that. We'll certainly keep our eye on where it is he chooses for the next fights. It was the rage for Baskin, no real surprise to me there. Should be putting that executioner right behind it. And this is go time now if you're Baskin, man. He is so difficult for everyone on the map to deal with. I'd be fighting wherever he is.
I completely agree, and here's the best part. He can be wherever he wants. He's got that ultimate. You don't have to wait to fight around him, and I think that that's the next step for Baskin and the boys is don't take your fights around mid lane. What's the point? Baskin can be in either side lane. Let's try and transition this lead now because he's as far ahead as you can get in a pro level game. I mean, two levels, a level and a half, and this many items is the lead that you get. You don't often see leads like we saw last game where it's 4 levels or something like that.
Right. This is
the I'm really big. Let's fight around me as much as we can moment. Take that elsewhere. You don't need to fight in the mid lane around the turn.
In this game on the Kukulkan, and he's played it well. I feel like in both these games had some nice ultimates, but it's so difficult for him to try and match this output from Baskin right now. What I feel like he really needs for andinster to be a bit tankier than what he's been. He's just been getting squashed in all these fights. Hold up, Aqua is continuing to be aggressive with RelentlessOne, but RelentlessOne plenty of healing with the Camazotz kit, so he should be okay. But as I was saying with Pegon, they need a little bit more out of this Kukulkan, and maybe that's in the setup department.
I mean, he doesn't have the pen yet, so it's a little bit hard for him to follow up on andinster's initiations with the full one-shot, but Geno isn't that tanky either, and no magical defense at all from Aqua, so could be worse. I think that he's in a fine situation. This build will still obliterate squishies pretty easily.
Absolutely.
With the Polynomicon, so I like the spot that Pegon is in. I don't think that he's done anything wrong necessarily. It's just that Baskin has gotten every kill, and at some point you have to admit that you have to accept that that's going to happen. And I'm Kukulkan, man. I'm sticking. I got no feet to walk around with. I'm floating wherever I go. Baskin can fly to his fights.
It's just so difficult to keep up with. What Baskin's done such a good job of, though, is not even really picking fights. He's just kind of answered where Cyno has gone, right? Like, Cyno's like, I'm going to gank left. Baskin's like, cool, 2v1 now. Try and beat that. Plus, the gank when he's ganking, Meerkat turns into the Camazotz with all this fight potential.
Interesting choice by Baskin to go with the Aussie, and I kind of like it. He's so far ahead. I mean, he's 6 levels up on andinster. Who needs pen? You get flat pen from this, 15 flat pen, but your damage output is just so high that you don't really need that much penetration. RelentlessOne isn't going that much outright protection. This new Caduceus shield is really there with a little bit of HP and power, but a little bit of protection, but it's really there for the heal.
You're incredibly low. Baskin and the boys able to confirm it. Really only a Sobek coming in for a chance to seal, so it's more about the fight on the backside. Already low is Cyno. He makes his way out of there. andinster has to charge prey for the disengage as well. Baskin and the boys should be out of there. Sprint even popped. I think Locked and Goated realized they're in some trouble. andinster nearly falls. That's a ton of damage from Baskin.
That was one auto that he landed and a crit, and that's why you don't need that much more than flat pen at this point. Executioner isn't really a necessity. I'd like to see Meerkat transform into the Chernobog at this point. I mean,
surprise, it's the Camazotz?
Yeah, if you're trying to initiate there, why not Chernobog or Guan Yu and just kind of hop on the horse and get in there? I feel like Meerkat was on a different page than the rest of Baskin and the boys, and Baskin's got such a lead at this point. Why not utilize it?
Well, when you talk about the Morrigan mentality, if what Meerkat has done is kind of picked his Camazotz as get out of jail free card, which it often is, then how much adjustment of that does he do on the fly? Do you kind of leave that pre-selected, though, in most of those cases?
You leave it pre-selected as the, oh, I'm in danger, let me get out of this.
Right.
But if you, like in a situation like that where you're just staring at each other, you've got time. Hold for, wheel to Chernobog or wheel to Guan Yu,
right,
and then go from there. I think that it has been a little bit too one-dimensional on those transformation targets.
Agreed, and it hasn't been even particularly impressive in some instances, even when he is on it. So we'll keep another eye there on how Meerkat chooses to play around this ultimate. Now that we're 18 minutes in, Baskin and the boys, we talked about how it looked like their lead was big earlier, but it really wasn't that huge. Now though it's about 4,000 or 5,000 gold or so in their favor. They've got significant levels, so they're ready to start stepping onto the gas pedal. Cyno, the early target of the aggression from Geno. Lord of the Afterlife from Aqua expended 2. Really only catches out Andy, but this is all in name of getting this Pyromancer space, and they've grabbed it. Easy objective for them.
And Cyno has to use the Purification Bead. This is a potential Fire Giant pull. The one problem is that Baskin and the boys do not have great objective secure. They've got really good objective DPS, but not good secure. And Pegon has some of the best secure in the entire game, so you really do have to be concerned about pulling a Fire Giant in the face of Locked and Goated, even if you're up this much, 3, 4, or 3, 5K. You're in a really good spot in order to try and pull objectives. You just have to take the fight with it. And I think that Locked and Goated are experienced enough with Cyno at the helm to really know that they don't have to contest early, just late.
Geno blinks in, finds the 2-man stun. That should open up the tier 2 tower, and maybe even the rest of the fight if they want it. Ẓtuart already low. They forced Mass to use the Purification Beads at the very least, so a nice gain from Locked and Goated there. But Baskin and the boys have now grouped up just like you were wanted, and just kind of taking whatever it is they want to go to on the map.
Uh-oh, is this going to be a Fire Giant rush by Locked and Goated? I mean, this is a great call if they've caught Baskin and the boys flat-footed. But don't forget, Baskin has his ultimate. Meerkat can transform and join the fight as that Chernobog. Good call. I think that's the right thought process. They all went left. They're at the back. They've got a lot of gold. They've got a Chernobog and a Morrigan. And it looks like Aqua hasn't backed. It's whatever front line was there. Not the right decision, but I like where their head's at.
Yeah, I think that at a certain point, you do kind of have to recognize that you're not winning the slugfests upright as much anymore, right? So you do kind of have to be, your All Might in his weakened form now, right? You got to be a bit tricky now, and that might be what they're considering here on the side of Locked and Goated, but that window wasn't quite there for them, so they'll have to reset. And I think Baskin and the boys, it's early. You don't go Fire Giant this early that often anyway, but I like that they haven't done a risky Fire Giant. Oftentimes, that's the window back in for these teams, and they have not given that to Locked and Goated.
Completely agree. No reason to. You're winning every single fight. There's still things for you to get.
Yeah.
Like at this point, Fury's up in a minute. Go get that Primal Fury. It's a much less risky engagement than on top of the Fire Giant. If you get it stolen with Kukulkan ult, sure, who cares? Let's just go to Fire now because we know that they don't have that cooldown. I think this is a perfectly fine spot to be in. Want to note that Pegon, I'm pretty sure Pegon had restored artifacts, was building into something that I thought was going to be Karon's
exactly
coin.
right.
And then he went to this Divine Ruin. Surprise, that's a lot of wasted gold.
It sure is, and SMITE selling it's never the great option. Baskin, the boys almost lose it though. That ultimate just not quite timed properly. RelentlessOne though does find this kill in the Geno. I think Locked and Goated want to take the fight. Cyno shuts down Baskin, finds himself a double. All of a sudden, they're turning this game around. The Fire Giant throw, we just called it, and maybe we're getting in Meerkat right back to the wolves for a triple kill. Cyno shutting it all down.
Hey, like I said, when Set gets a lot of items and is able to get to level 20, then he can start to make plays. And that's exactly what Cyno does, but we may have spoken it into existence, Finch. I mean, this Fire Giant is completely unnecessary. Primal Fury was coming up. You had 2 towers on the right. That's a lot of gold that you don't have to gamble the whole game on. This might be game over. They might be able to just march down and end.
And let's see if they give this one a try. Cyno is quite low. They have Aqua locked down. They're going to turn around and DPS him. That might mean that a chance for the game end is now out the window. In comes Geno as well, trying to blitz to the backside. He does get 1 kill onto Cyno, tries to lock down the other ones, but RelentlessOne gets 1 more trade. But I think I'm fine with that from Geno. They weren't able to push past an end, but they do lose a mid-Phoenix.
Training Geno for Cyno at this point is a totally fine position to be in. But man, this is a bad spot now for Baskin and the boys because they've lost a lot of momentum. That Fire Giant only on Aqua, a 4,000 lead at 22 minutes isn't really that much. And now it's going to be even less than that because this Primal Fury is going to go to Locked and Goated. A really good team fight from Locked and Goated, but I feel like Baskin and the boys really did let that one slip away. Baskin died without using their ultimate on the right-hand side. It's not a good ultimate once you get engaged upon.
Right.
But I feel like you've got to get a chance to get that off. Really, I think Cyno just deserves a ton of credit because he found a great window in, went in, he used that shell, and this is something that I've seen Cyno do a lot is pick up upgraded shell instead of Aegis. and it basically does effectively the same thing against Baskin. It prevents damage for a small window, gives him 2 block stacks and a good chunk of health, but it doesn't stop his damage. It doesn't stop his DPS. It allows him to keep auto-attacking and throwing out skewers. I love this adjustment, and I think that carries getting things like Shell instead of Aegis is probably something that we're a little bit overdue on. I think it's a really smart adjustment by Cyno, and just completely puts his team back in the saddle in this game. They were in a lot of trouble.
And particularly based on the damage he's going to be seeing, right? Which is what I think was your point. This could be trouble, though. It's now Baskin. The boys have gotten aggressive on the right-hand side. Cyno caught out underneath the Tier 1 tower. Aqua moving into the jungle to try and find a couple more targets. Charge Prey lands. Thorn's duration has expended. Big ultimate through the jungle, and it does hit in the back for 1,200. Geno now low. Pagon gets the kill credit for that. Ẓtuart finds Baskin as well, and now the waterfall in full effect. Locked and goaded, just going to run it down. Meerkat falls to Cyno, and they should just be able to keep going right down mid.
That's game. Pagon hits a huge ultimate onto Baskin, who didn't have his Aegis. Don't know if his jump was down or something like that. The dash couldn't get into a wall.
Wow.
But Pagon wins the game with a Kukulkan ult. It hits the target that has really given Locked and Goated problems. Baskin goes from 7-0 to 7-2, and the game is over.
Just that easy. 2 members up to try and hold on to this game for Baskin. The boys, Mass and Aqua, doing all they can, but Titan down to half HP, down to about a quarter, and there's just too much DPS as long as they stick to this actual tower. Health bars, though, starting to get low, but not enough. Locked and Goated now. Shockingly, have found a way to take Baskin and the boys up 2-0.
Unbelievable. I mean, you just feel like Baskin and the boys had that one wrapped up and then forgot the gift at home and didn't realize it until they got to the party. There were 2 towers up on that right-hand side and a Primal Fury coming up without good secure, and I know that they secured the Fire Giant, but they have to wait until Pegon uses that ultimate, and that buys so much time for the rest of Locked and Goated to set up a good fight. Baskin's taking damage from Fire Giant, everyone's taking damage from Fire Giant, and ultimately it ends up losing them the fight and eventually the game.
And think about how these 2 wins, they're so different, right? Game 1, a stomp in favor of them.
Yep.
Now in Game 2, it's basically a comeback where you play around this late game set. That's got to give this team a ton of confidence winning in these 2 different ways.
It's true. I mean, now it's like, okay, well, we can blow them out. We can come back if they get off to a lead. And there's no way that doesn't mentally affect Baskin and the boys getting beat in that manner. And we've already stated it's been a long day for them. They've been playing a lot at this point. I don't know how they bounce back mentally from a loss like that. I think it's tough.
We'll get our chance to find out how much more they have in the tank after this quick break.